Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee with Craig. We very much appreciate you guys tuning in. We also appreciate you liking and sharing this video feed so that your friends can become our friends and join in the conversation. Also, please remember to like and share or subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as follow us on Facebook. If you're not on Facebook and you still want to make sure that you get all of our action alerts, then even if you're on Facebook, go to firearmspolicy.org, sign up for our action alerts so we can have them sent directly to your email. It's that simple. If you want to know about what giveaways we got going on, if you want to know about what actions we're taking, what fire missions we're working on, that information will be sent directly to you. You don't even have to hunt it down. It'll be right there in your email box. Can't make it any simpler than that. Also, wanted to remind you, our Gadsden Flag t-shirts, they're going to be selling out, so you got to make sure that you get yours. We've also got at FPCgear.com, we've got a ton of other t-shirts that are available for you for both the guys and for the ladies. So please make sure to check that out. Where can you find it? FPCgear.com. That's FPCgear.com. Know that every dollar that you spend there goes back into the fight for our civil rights. So you're not only getting a cool t-shirt, but you're also contributing to the fight. So make sure you guys do that today. Let's get into today's topic. Now, we all know that things have kind of slowed down in Washington, D.C. For some reason, even the pro-gun politicians seem to get a little wary when we start getting near Election Day. So, they're more focused on, on getting reelected than they are on actually passing legislation that is going to help gun owners. But we've been hearing about an idea that FPC has been pushing. And we're hearing very, very good things. And it's an opportunity, we believe, where we may actually get a piece of pro-Second Amendment legislation, probably the only really pro-Second Amendment piece of legislation this year, if not this cycle. So to discuss that and much more about what's going on in Washington, D.C., we have our Washington, not just Washington State, but also Washington, D.C. guru with us, Mr. Phil Watson. Phil, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Craig?
I am doing fantastic. Too blessed to be stressed. So tell me, first of all, before we get into talking about other things going on in D.C., tell me about this idea and give us an idea of where it came from.
Well, it's financially based and based on the idea of people that love tax cuts. And there's a lot of us who work a job and we see at the end of our pay period, we look on our paycheck and we see, who's this FICA guy and why is he taking so much out of my paycheck? So I had a great idea for a tax cut bill that could maybe become an amendment, and that will be tax cuts for somebody that may want to purchase a firearms safe, any type of gun safe, or undergo any type of gun safety training. So those things can be on the expensive end sometimes, and we figured why not give people a tax deduction for those items if they want to purchase them. And you may not even own a gun, and you may want to undergo a safety training class or buy a gun safe. So it's not just for gun owners that this can benefit.
And that the thing is, this is a tax cut that no matter where you stand on the issue of firearms, that you should be able to support, because right. We hear anti-gunners all the time talking about safe storage of firearms. Well, can you think of a safer place to store a firearm than in a safe?
Right. And our thing was we didn't want to make it mandatory, and this bill doesn't make it either mandatory, doesn't make safety training mandatory necessarily, and it also doesn't make owning a gun safe or purchasing a gun safe mandatory or mandatory that you even use it. So I think it's a great bill. It gives people incentives to do these things or purchase these items if they so wish. And it gives them a great tax cut as well if they want to do that, tax deduction on these items. So
Right. And that's, once again, the other part being the safety training. Once again, they're always talking about, gun safety. Well, rather than putting mandates out there, why not make it easier for people to take the sorts of classes that are going to help them to be safe, responsible gun owners? Which, by the way, is something that that every Second Amendment advocacy group that I know of has always advocated for, whether it's NSSF, whether it's GOA, whether it's NRA, and then once again, also us, FPC. We always talk about the importance and the value of training and helping people to know and understand what's legal, what's not, understanding how to safely handle, store, save, all of those things. So why wouldn't you want to make that tax deductible? I don't get why someone wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, there's just really no argument, against the bill that's a coherent or cogent one from what I've been able to gather. So it's a great bill, and so far I haven't run into anybody that opposes it, which is a great sign. So I think it's an excellent bill to write into your legislator about your congressman or your senators. Click on the link that you guys are going to post and say you want the tax cut. So it's just that easy.
So now we know that one of the biggest challenges that we've been having is that, well, with this 60-vote filibuster, which, by the way, right, none of us voted for. I don't know. It's nowhere in law. They just made this crap up in the Senate. Anyway, we'll call it extra legal or extra cons, whatever it is. Anyway, but we all know that getting most of the pro-gun legislation through is almost impossible because we have too many weak-kneed Republicans who are not willing to stand up and be counted as pro-Second Amendment. So why does this legislation have a chance as opposed to any of that other legislation?
Well, here's the thing. I think the other legislation, there's parties on both sides of the aisle that either want to see it pass 100% or 100% don't want to see it pass. And this legislation is a little bit different because it takes a different pathway. Number one, a lot of the groups can't find anything to argue about with the bill, and a lot of legislators' offices haven't figured out how to argue against the bill or figured out anything that they want to oppose in the bill. So we've got that going for us right now. But the problem number one is, of course, like you said, with the U.S. Senate, 51 votes, of course, to pass something, and 51 votes to pass something under what's called reconciliation. That, of course, bypasses the 60-vote filibuster rule. So that's what we're mainly dealing with on most of the pro-gun legislation that doesn't deal with financial issues.
Okay, so in other words, most of the other bills, you have to get 60 votes in order to close debate.
Correct.
But in this case, because it's financial, you only need 50% plus one, or in this case, 51 votes. That lower threshold opens the door and makes it more possible for this legislation to pass.
Yeah, anything with a budgetary aspect in the federal budget would potentially qualify for a 51 vote passage in the Senate. So anything, let's say, that impacts a federal budget or federal taxation will qualify for that. So we're confident that this bill can meet those standards. Now, if we're able to get a vote in the Senate is a different issue, which is why people need to, again, call and write their reps, not just in Congress but in the U.S. Senate about this and other bills that we support.
Oh, well, there you go. So, all right, so folks, once again, that's the idea. That's the legislation. Once we have a specific bill number, we'll make sure that you guys have that bill number, and we'll know exactly who to contact in order to support the measure. Moving right along, though, let's talk a little bit about other stuff. What else is going on in Washington, D.C.?
Well, the swamp, as it's called, is pretty swampy and pretty slow right now due to the next election. And a lot of people have sort of gone into campaign mode where they hide under their desk and for a brief time period go out to their districts in their states and ask people to vote for them because they're so great at either passing good legislation or stopping bad legislation from passing. So right now they haven't done a whole lot to pass pro-Second Amendment legislation. One of one of the big things that's stopping them from doing that is the close vote right now in the U.S. Senate. So that's a big problem and a big issue, and it may come down to just a handful of states or a handful of districts like Montana. So that's gonna be a big one this year, and with a handful of other ones.
Well, I think that part of that though is, as frustrated as we can be with federal Republicans, at least we can look to the House and recognize they've done something. They haven't done all that we've wanted.
Correct.
They haven't done all that they could, but they have done more than those in the Senate have done.
Right.
And so therefore, I think that ought to be acknowledged.
Right.
But at the same time, we ought to demand that they adopt leadership in the House that actually is going to do more,
right,
and is actually going to be pro Second Amendment,
right,
not just political about it, but aggressive about it,
right. And I think one of the things that they could do is definitely vote on bills like the tax deduction bill that we've talked about, and send a clean concealed carry bill over to the Senate for them to vote on in the Senate. And they may not reach the 60 vote threshold, but there's nothing that says they can't hold a vote on it and see if they can close debate on the bill. So they still have a lot to do in the U.S. Senate. I don't see anything wrong with putting some of these guys on the record, either for or against these bills. So I'm perfectly fine with them voting on the bill and getting these folks on the record. And if they want to face us in the ballot box, then I'm perfectly happy to do that.
And I am right there with you. I would love to see them pass stuff over to Senate, because quite frankly, for those in the House, those in a lot of these Republican districts, folks, look, I've never seen a Republican lose an election over a pro-gun vote.
Right.
I've never seen it happen.
Right.
If you guys out there know of anybody who has, hey, put it in the comments. If you've ever heard of a Republican losing over a pro-gun vote, I've never seen it happen.
I've never heard of it either.
And so this is an easy one. Those of you in Congress, those of you in the House, pass it. Pass a clean concealed carry reciprocity bill. Pass it over to the Senate, and you know what? Make them do their jobs.
Yep.
Period. They said they were going to be pro Second Amendment. Make them prove it.
Absolutely.
All right, folks. Well, hey, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. We appreciate you guys tuning in and being a part of the fight. We thank you, Phil, for coming in and joining us. Please, once again, remember to like and share. Subscribe to our video feeds on both YouTube and Facebook. Follow us, and remember to be a part in the fight for civil rights. We got to use them, or we're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.